Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Bill with GrownUpKidShop.com. And unlike my other video, I think I'm gonna do this blog post video. This is our first blog. And I think this is basically just gonna be me reading it to you and giving you some commentary because I'm definitely gonna have commentary on these topics. But if you do want to check these out, they are on grownupkidshop.com. And if you click on the upper left-hand corner, the little double line there, you can drop down to blog and read these at your leisure. I'm glad this one was my first one. I published this one back in May 5th because I saw a lot of this happening on Whatnot. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, this figure is worth $1,400, but because I like you, I'm going to cut you a deal for $13.99. That's an extreme, but you know what I'm saying, is they kept claiming customs as Lego, trying to get Lego money. And I think custom minifigures and Lego minifigures definitely have a use in the hobby. A lot of people talk about custom minifigures and they say, oh, those frauds, those copies, they're not real. Custom minifigures do a great job of serving an unserved desire. What I like about custom minifigures is I like that we can get designs like the Batman Who Laughs that Lego hasn't made, and I don't know if they'll ever make because they tend to be very kid focused, and the Batman Who Laughs is not a kid friendly character. But they also do 1970s disco Nightwing, with the popped up collar, wearing the blue suit with the bell bottoms. That is a very famous comic book cover. We've never seen him, but there is customs on him. And that's what I love about custom minifigures. But it's really important to understand what is a custom and what is Lego. And stop saying customs don't matter, because they actually do. It's okay if you don't like a custom minifigure. But don't just throw it away because I only want Lego. Because it's such an ego thing. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. It's going to go through how to tell the difference between the two. And I might skim. We're going to see how this goes. But how to tell the difference between a Lego minifigure and a custom minifigure. There's a specific kind of heartbreak that only a toy collector knows. It's the moment you realize that rare minifigure that you just scored on a marketplace isn't quite what it seems. Maybe the arms are a little too stiff. Maybe the face looks like it was printed during a mild earthquake. Or maybe when you look at it under the right light, the plastic has that weird waxy sheen that screams generic. At Grown Up Kids, we live for the hunt. Whether we're stocking up on the latest Lego Botanical Collection or hunting down retro Marvel Legends. I don't really like the retro Marvel Legends. We should have just kept it at Marvel Legends. We know that authenticity is everything. For adult collectors, these aren't just bits of plastic. They're pieces of our history, and they're often serious investments. So how do you protect your collection? Whether you're hunting for Lego versus custom minifigures, or just want to make sure your Lego sets are 100% genuine, here is your field guide to spotting the difference. The secret mark. Looking for the Lego logo. If there is one thing you take away from this post, let it be this. Lego is very proud of their name. They put it everywhere. On a genuine minifigure, you will find the word Lego molded into the plastic in places you wouldn't even think to look. The absolute easiest way to check a figure's soul, pop the head off. So that little neck piece is going to have a Lego branding on it. Look at the top of the neck post. The little stud the head sits on. An authentic figure will have the Lego logo embossed right there. Most knockoffs or fakes figures won't even bother with this detail. They'll usually have a smooth top or a messy mold mark from the injection process. But don't stop there. You should also find the logo on the top of the head stud. So if that head has, let's say, a hairpiece, take the hairpiece off. In that little stud right there, you're going to see the word Lego printed in there. Between the studs on the top of the legs, if you pull the torso off, so if you pull the torso off and look at it straight away, it would be right in between the legs. On the bottom of the feet. So you're going to turn the figure around and you're going to look for a little groove. Just enough space where it's going to say Lego. If you don't see that four-letter mark in at least two of the three of these spots, you're likely holding a counterfeit. Now, here's something that could happen. They would be swapping parts because Lego figure parts are easy to get. The big one you're going to want to look at is that neck piece. Reason being is they could easily put legs anywhere. They could find heads and Lego heads and put them on there so that you could see it there. The chest is going to be the big difference because there's so many shirt designs on customs and Lego figures. It's really hard to copy those. Also in the chest, when you take it off its legs and look inside of it, it's going to have an X pattern. That's very traditional Lego. A lot of customs will not have that pattern. But looking for the Lego branding at the top of the neck, that's going to be a key thing you're going to want to do. And here goes the X Factor. This is a great picture. Lego's engineering is honestly a thing of beauty. They don't just care about how the figure looks on your shelf. They care about how it holds together. If you have a figure that feels a bit wobbly or loose, try pulling the legs off and looking up into the bottom of the torso. On a real Lego minifigure, you will see a very specific X-shaped reinforcement pattern. This isn't just for decoration, it's what gives the torso its structural integrity. Fake figures, especially the cheaper compatible brands, often have a completely hollow torso or very different, crudely molded internal structure. This is a big reason why fakes tend to crack or lose their clutch power over time. Plastic quality, the feel, and the sheen. This is the part that's hard to describe until you've held thousands of them, but you know the feel of real Lego. Authentic minifigures are made from high quality ABS plastic. It has a specific weight to it, a heft, that feels solid rather than hollow. It also has a very consistent, subtle gloss. If you look at a figure and it looks cloudy, greasy, or unusually dull, your alarm bells should be ringing. Then there's the clutch. When you snap a Lego arm into a torso or a leg onto a stud, it should click with a satisfying, precise snap. If it's too tight, like you're going to break it, or too loose, like it's going to fall off if you sneeze, it's a red flag. I will say this, a lot of the customs that I have and that I've given away to customers, they do have this effect. Sometimes the arms are either too loose or way too tight. Sometimes the arms or the hands are so hard to get into the arm socket. But you're going to see that tightness with Lego. It is definitely a lot more smoother. You can easily pull them out. Sometime on customs, it's so loose that the body just comes apart from the legs. You're going to see this with many. One exception, I would say, is, and I'm going to just throw out a company name that I really love the work that they do on customs, is Big Kid Bricks. Big Kid Bricks makes beautiful custom minifigures. Now they are sold at a premium. They're $35 a pop minimum usually. My Batman Who Laughs with the three slave Robins, I think they're slaves. I think he's got the mind control or something. He's got them like all chained up and everything. That was $120 as a custom. That was a huge price point. My Spaceballs customs. I got everyone in Spaceballs. It's fantastic. They were not cheap. So just know where you're getting these customs from. If you're on eBay and the figure looks weird, like it, somebody will call it Lego. It's a lot of times it's not Lego. And if you ever need help trying to figure out if something is Lego or not, send me a message and I can take a look at it. Printing mastery, pad versus UV. This is where the custom conversation gets interesting. There's a huge difference between a fake counterfeit figure and a high quality custom figure. And I want to be really clear about that. At Grown Up Kids, we spend a lot of time around both authentic Lego minifigures and high quality custom minifigures because both have real value to collectors. Official Lego matters for authenticity, long-term collectability, and that unmistakable factory quality and value. Values big in this regard right here. But customs absolutely have their place too, especially when they bring characters, looks, or whole franchises to life that Lego doesn't have the license for or probably never will. And honestly, the best custom minifigures can look incredibly good. In a display, many of them look every bit as sharp, polished, and shelf-worthy as official Lego figures. That's a big part of the appeal. They're not less than when they're made well. They're often the only way to get a favorite character, costume, or concept into minifigure form at all. Lego and many of the best customs use a process called pad printing. This is where the ink is physically stamped onto the plastic. It results in a finish that is incredibly sharp, opaque, and flush with the surface. Some lower end figures use UV printing. If you look closely or run your fingernail over the design, UV printing can feel slightly raised and have a grainy, textured appearance. So here we can kind of see the difference. The big difference you're going to see on this is kind of like that texture in the wreath on the right hand side, but you're also going to see it, like if you can see it in this picture, in the middle of that emptiness, that circular hole of the wreath. You can see, and this is what they actually do look like. Not always, just keep that in mind. So the Lego is going to have sharp, clean edges, opaque, solid colors, and smooth, flat surface, whereas the low-end customs are going to have edges less precise, grainy, uneven texture, and slightly raised ink. That's why I don't like lumping every non-Lego figure into the same bucket. A well-made custom can be an awesome piece in its own right, not because it's pretending to be official Lego, but because it gives collectors access to designs Lego hasn't made. Sometimes that means comic characters and costumes will never get officially. Sometimes it means movie, game, or indie franchises Lego simply doesn't touch. Keep in mind, Lego is a massive corporation that works with other massive corporations. So if you're playing an indie game, the odds of them bringing those characters to life are going to be slim to none. We actually love high quality customs as collectors. Some are printed on genuine Lego parts, and others use high quality compatible parts depending on the maker and the design goals. Either way, the goal is the same: a figure that looks great, feels intentional, and earns a spot in your collection. The important thing is being honest about what you're buying. That's the big one. If you're buying a custom, the question isn't, is this bad because it's not official? The real question is whether it's a well-made custom or a cheap knockoff pretending to be something it's not. This, I firmly believe, and I've seen people go live on Whatnot, just shows to talk about how to tell the difference between a custom and a Lego, because it is crazy the amount of people trying to pass customs as Lego on whatnot. Why authenticity matters to us. You might be wondering, Penny, the writer, it's just a tiny plastic person. Does it really matter? To us, it really does. And so does clarity. When we curate our collections here at Grown Up Kids, we're thinking about longevity, display value, and being upfront about what something is. Official Lego matters to a lot of collectors because of the brand history, the quality control, and the long-term value. And customs matter too, because they can fill the gaps, especially for characters and franchises that would never exist otherwise in minifigure form. Fake plastic degrades differently. It yellows faster, it becomes brittle, and most importantly, it has zero resale value when it's just a bad counterfeit. But that's not the same thing as a quality custom sold honestly. We're scrappy collectors at heart, and we know how hard you work for your hobby money. We don't want you wasting it on junk, but we're also absolutely here for great customs that earn their spot on the shelf. And I really want to talk about that because I've actually gotten questions about this from store managers, owners. Why do I give away free gifts with purchase? Why do I give away free squishies? Why am I throwing away margins? And um, I want you guys to understand I'm not a traditional store owner. I love collecting and I love people who love collecting. I love seeing them get excited, having the thrill of finally opening something that they've been saving up for. And so at the end of the day, I want to make sure what I'm selling to you is quality. Is it something that's going to put a smile on your face and not a frown? I don't want you walking away from either buying something from me in a retail location or online saying, "Oh, he scammed me. Oh, this doesn't work. Oh, this smells." Anything like that. And I think a great story is today I actually had a kid. He came up and he said, "Can I have the shark squishy?" And it was a little shark. And I was like, "Sure." He came back to me in about 10 minutes later and he goes, "This is leaking." And I felt really bad for him. And so I said, "Okay, let me grab that." And I went to go grab him another one, and that one looked funny. So I threw both of those away. And I went to grab him the jumbo shark. And I said, "I'm going to upgrade you for free. I feel really bad about that." So I gave it to him. It was definitely a lot more than the squishy he bought, but for me, that's just making it right for the customer because I don't want them to think that they are getting less than or that I'm trying to pass the buck on something. It's one of the reasons I give free gifts with purchase over $25 on eBay. And I really like that because of the reaction I get on my reviews on eBay. If you haven't read them, go check them out. 100% rating. I'm going to toot that horn all day long because I work my butt off for that. I have next day fulfillment. I have free shipping. I work my butt off on, on my 100% rating. And I don't care that it's only 160 orders. I I will toot my own horn on that one all day long because I do work hard to make sure people are happy. Um, and so I realize I'm getting off on a tangent, but I'm just going to get on one more. I had one person write a review saying that they were confused about the item they bought. They thought they were getting more than what they ordered. And so I responded to their review. I also messaged them. And he said no, it was just an honest mistake. He really liked the mystery machine that he bought. He thought it was the whole set because the eBay listing is set up in variations. And I said, "Okay, great. I just want to make sure you were happy because I did offer to do a return for him. Never done a return in 160 orders." And he goes, "No, no, I want to keep it." He's like, I just wanted to make sure." And I was like, "Okay." Um, but that's how I try to work the store. And I hope to always work the store that way. is making sure people are always happy. Okay. Um, Watch out on auction sites. Oh, I wonder what site I could be talking about here. This is where a lot of collectors get burned, not because customs are bad, but because some sellers try to pass them off as official Lego and charge official Lego money. And that's the real problem. We love customs. A great custom can look fantastic, fill a gap in your lineup, and honestly be the best way to own a character Lego has never made. But if someone lists a custom as official or stays vague on purpose, you can end up badly overpaying for something that was never supposed to be sold that way in the first place. And that drives me crazy because they ruin it for everyone. If you're checking a figure before you buy, here are the spots I always tell people to verify. And, I would even ask pictures, especially like I was selling a reverse flash Lego minifigure for $110. And what I did in the listing is I took pictures of the neck. I took pictures of inside the legs, of the feet, of the top of the head to show everyone this is a legit Lego minifigure. Top of the neck, inside the leg holes, head stud, inside the torso, under the arms. I was just reading that because I'm like, under the arms. Wait, what? This is another good authenticity check. On genuine parts, you'll usually find Lego molding details inside the torso area and around the arm assembly. I, for some reason, I forgot about that. The goal isn't to scare people away from customs. It's to make sure you know what you're buying. If a seller is asking premium collector pricing, they should be able to clearly show logos, part markings, and honest photos. If they can't, that's your sign to slow down. And this is also another way to catch them in the act. And it's, unfortunately how some buyer fraud could happen is looking at those pictures and then comparing to what they sent you. I wish there wasn't collectible fraud, but here we are, and it's a very challenging thing to work around. I will say this. I will say that if I suspect somebody of trying to defraud me, I will do the return and then I'll block them. It's just a very straightforward thing for me. I don't have time to work with people who even have the appearance of fraud. There's so many other people that I have to talk to that, if somebody, okay, I'm going to back up. I did have one person I sent a Lego minifigure to that was in perfect condition. It was a Red Hood. It was one of my favorite Red Hoods. I sent out to him. And he got it and said that there's a crack on the left-hand side. I said, no, there's not. Absolutely not a crack on the left-hand side. And he persisted to say there was. Had no pictures to send me. I said, if you believe that it was damaged in transit, you can go ahead and file a claim with United States Postal Service. And he goes, no, I'm going to go file a claim with Whatnot. And there's a reason why he did that. Because he didn't want to be on record with USPS with an insurance claim. Because USPS tracks that. And it's not like he can change platforms. I mean, he could use FedEx or UPS. But after a while, they're all going to catch on and they're all going to know better. He'd rather do it with the actual marketplace that doesn't really care about that. And so I did have a claim filed on me because of him. And, he could very well have received a damaged figure. However, when he said it was cracked, because that was the whole thing on Whatnot. They're like, oh, is the leg cracked? Is the arm cracked? I've never had a cracked Lego figure before. I've never had a figure with a cracked leg, cracked arm, cracked chest, nothing. And all of a sudden, it's like a common thing on Whatnot. oh, there's a slight crack here. I'm like, why is there a slight crack there? Anyway, tangent again, trying to get back on topic. Not all customs are created equal. This is another thing I think people deserve straight talk on. Not all customs are created equal. A lot of great customs come out of China. That's just the reality of how this part of the hobby works. But the quality across the market varies widely. Some factories put out sharp printing, strong parts, and figures that feel great in hand. Others put out stuff that looks decent in a listing photo and falls apart the second you start assembling it. That's why collectors have to do the legwork. It takes time to vet manufacturers, compare quality, and figure out which makers are actually producing the good stuff instead of just throwing out flashy product photos. If a custom is going to earn a spot in your collection, it should actually deserve it. A good rule of thumb, look for sellers who are specific about what they're offering. Show clear close-up photos and understand the difference between a quality custom and a random low-end figure. The extra transparency goes a long way. So I will say that we order customs from Chinese manufacturers. And I've been ordering from them for a while. I like their stuff. It's not necessarily perfect, which is why every custom I get, I assemble myself first. I want to make sure it works before you get the disassembled package. Try to assemble it, either hurt your hands or it doesn't work, and I want to make sure we avoid that altogether and QA the figure. And if the figure doesn't, is not up to par, then I just toss it out. I put it into like a scrap pile. Comparing the price points. This is where a lot of collectors make their decision. And honestly, it should depend on your budget and what kind of collection you're building. Custom minifigures can be an inexpensive way to expand a collection. They make it easier to pick up fun characters, alternate looks, or franchises Lego hasn't touched without blowing your whole hobby budget. And because many high-quality customs look just as good on display as official Lego figures, they're not some backup option. They're often the right option for collectors who want a specific character Lego simply hasn't made. Our Lego minifigures, on the other hand, are top-tier pieces for collectors who want the genuine article. William personally, this is Penny writing, William personally hunts them down to make sure they meet a high standard, and we offer them at prime collector pricing for people looking for authentic, high-value pieces that really deserve a spot in the collection. Neither option is wrong. They just serve different goals. If you want official Lego for authenticity, brand history, and premium collector value, paying more can make sense. If you want a great looking display piece at a friendlier price, especially for characters Lego doesn't offer, customs can be a really smart buy. So this is the age-old issue with Lego minifigures and customs. A lot of people are like, $110 for a reverse flash minifigure. Why? Well, because he did not appear in many Lego sets. The Lego sets he was in are very expensive, so it drives up the cost of that figure. You can get the custom for $10, or you can actually get the Lego minifigure for $110. It's really up to you on what you want to do. And that kind of creates different conversations. And so, one thing I do with customs is I don't try to buy for myself. I don't try to buy customs for Lego figures that are already available. I always just buy customs for myself, like for Spaceballs. There's no Lego figures for that. Or it could be alternate versions of X-Men that I haven't seen. Especially before the expansion came out, there's a lot of X-Men that were missing from Lego. So here's your quick cheat sheet for your next hunt. Before you click buy on that suspiciously cheap figure, run through this list. Check the neck, the head stud, the legs, the torso. Inspect the print, the feel, and then the X inside that chest. At the end of the day, collecting should be fun, not a constant stress test for fakes. That's why we're so obsessive about our sourcing. We do the hunting so you don't have to worry about the X factor for the neck logos. And we try to be just as clear when something is an authentic Lego figure versus a high quality custom. Have you ever occasionally bought a fake, or do you have a custom figure that you actually like better than the official version, or which Lego would make but probably never will? Come have a conversation with us and send us a message, or check out our latest Lego arrivals to seal the real deal in person. So, long story short, love customs, love Lego minifigures, both have a place. Just know what you're buying. And I really want to say, when you go to Bricks and Minifigs, check their minifigures. They're usually really good about having a custom area. And for people who don't understand what distribution through Lego is like, Lego actually was the only distributor that turned me down. And it wasn't them, it was their distributor. But they do require the majority of your store to be dedicated to Lego. And so when you go into Bricks and Minifigs, there's a reason why it's all in like a single glass case, and that's the only place you're going to find customs in the store. So have fun with the hobby. I'm kind of backing away from Lego for the time being until values kind of rebound. The values are just in the dumpster. So I'm just going to hold on to the Lego I have and focus on, another toy line, like maybe getting some more Transformers, because I nearly do not have enough Transformers. But thanks so much for watching, listening. If you like this kind of content and you want to hear more about it, you want to hear more news about collectibles and toys, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment below. Thank you guys for watching. Take care, and I'll talk with you later.